Here are my honest thoughts about training in the Philippines with Grand Tuhon. Now, I've just got back from Bacolod from the Philippines with stopovers. It took me more than 48 hours to get from there back to Goa. I've literally just got home. I just had a bath. I just picked up Luna. And I wanted to make this video before it got dark because while my thoughts were still fresh. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that if you are thinking about going to Bacolod to train with GT in the Philippines, then I would definitely recommend it 100%. However, there are some caveats that will, if you keep these things in mind, it will help you get the most out of this training and stop you from getting frustrated, because training with GT is not like training in your class or even attending a seminar with GT or with anyone. Actually, it's a completely different experience, and the more you can embrace that experience, the more prepared you are for that experience, the more you can take away from that experience. And through the years, as I've gone there, and I've been there many times, and stayed for many months, I have seen a bunch of people come and go, and I haven't seen too many people return. The main reason for that is because of frustration and expectations. The first thing is, understand that Grand Tuhon is now 84 years old. He is not the Grand Tuhon you may have known 10 years ago, and he is also not the Grand Tuhon that you have met in a seminar. When you train with him in his home over multiple days, the first 2 or 3 days he's always very excited and he's going to give you many hours. But slowly, as the days wear on, his age is going to start to show and exhaustion is going to start to show, and he's going to start falling asleep more often in the middle of talking to you or in the middle of meals. He's going to be able to train less hours. This is just how it is. This is the inevitability of age. However, when he is moving, it is still something, it is something to behold. I have had the privilege to train with many Tuhons from across the world, and yet I have never found a teacher who can do what Grand Tuhon does. He is the embodiment of Pekiti Tirsia Kali. So that's the first thing, age. Second thing is expectations, and expectations also very much tied into age. Now, like I said in the beginning, this is not a class, this is not a seminar, this is a completely different experience of going, staying, and training with GT. Now, we don't stay in GT's house. It's not like training at LightHaven in a residential course where you literally live in the school and all you do from morning to evening is train, eat, sleep, train, eat, sleep. Here you're living in a hotel. GT is going to come depending on the month, depending on the numbers. There are different places that we can go and train. What we did this time was we took a room on the top floor of the hotel, and it was a room that was the biggest room. It was a room for 5 people, and we kept that just as a training room. So we had our own rooms in the hotel, and this room was just the training room. And so regardless of the weather or how people were feeling, how GT was feeling, we knew that we had this place in the hotel where we could go and train. This is the first time that I've done this. Normally what we do is we have different locations around Bacolod where we go and train, sometimes GT's house, sometimes a ranch called Bantuk, sometimes a resort called Santa Fe. It really depends. GT is going to tell you in the morning, he's going to give you a time that he's going to come and meet you. And that is a time that GT may or may not show up, but you will definitely not begin training at that time. If you go into this experience thinking that I am going to show up at 7 a.m. and training is going to start at 7 a.m., you're going to be very disappointed. Because the truth is, if GT says I'm going to come at 8 o'clock, he may come at 8:30, he may come at 9, he may not come in the morning at all. He may call you and say I'm going to come later. I kept saying to my students that be prepared for anything and don't ask me any questions because I have absolutely no idea. What you want to do going into this training trip is go into it as an experience, because at the end of the day, because of who GT is and the amount of time he has spent training and teaching this art, you are going there to experience Pekiti in its purest form. GT now instinctually embodies Pekiti, so he may not be able to tell you, and he won't tell you the whys and the whats. He won't give you the articulated details that maybe like I or somebody else would give you. What he will give you though is he will give you an insight into how he functions, an insight into how he was taught, an insight into how he moves and why he moves in a particular way. And at the end of the day, that insight is the true gem that we're looking for. Both me and my students experience the same thing. I've experienced this every single time that I go to him. My students have experienced this time as well. Even though it was the first time meeting GT, is that when you go to train with him, whatever level you're at, he will, in a very short period of time, elevate that level extremely quickly. And you're not exactly sure how it's happened, but it happens. It happens with me every single year. And first I thought maybe it's just me, but it happened with all of my students, including Zarir. Zarir has been training for just a few months, but he's already loves the art so much that he wanted to immediately go and train with GT. And in just 10 days of training, you can see the difference in his movement, you can see the difference in his ability. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how GT gets people to move from 0 to 100 so fast, but it is an undeniable part of the experience if you embrace this experience with both hands. If you fight against the experience, if you fight against the timing, if you fight against GT's age, if you fight against the weather or the hotel or the food or any of the other things that are going to cause you frustration, you're not going to get what you can get from this. But if you embrace this as an experience, surrender, have some amount of surrender to the experience, then you're going to get a lot out of this. The last thing I'm going to say is that what really helped my students this time is to have a person who is more experienced than them, not just experience in Pekiti, but experience with GT. Now, I've spent so many years training with GT that I understand the way he moves, I understand what he wants, the way he, to a certain extent, how he solves problems. And so there are times, me and my students were joking about this actually, that when he's talking to me, oftentimes he won't even speak to me in English, he speak to me in Tagalog or Ilonggo, even though I don't speak those languages, because I know how he thinks, what his mannerisms are, how he likes to approach things, how he likes to teach. He can oftentimes communicate with me in a whole other language, even though I don't speak that language. Also, when he's teaching something to my students, I know the direction he's going. So what we used to do is, we used to train with GT in the day, and whenever we would get some free time, we would do like a revision session where I would take everybody through what, I would break down everything we did from in the day, and I break them down into repeatable drills and into sort of, I'd structure them in a way that I knew that these people would understand. And that sort of, I acted sort of as a translator between GT and them. I have been to Bacolod before knowing nothing about Pekiti. I did 3 days of Pekiti before I went to Bacolod, 7 years before I actually went. I am probably or possibly the only Tuhon in Pekiti Tirsia Kali that has trained the Tri-B formula from 0 to 100 or whatever I am, from 0 to whatever I am with GT, without having already a base of Pekiti. Generally people go to GT having some FMA background or some Pekiti background already. I didn't. And I know the struggle that I had and the frustration that I had in the beginning. And it was because I had people there to help me out in the off time when GT wasn't around that I could learn anything at all in that first trip. And so it was my endeavor to do the same thing for my students. So if you go there, if you can take someone who is experienced with GT before, who has experience with GT before, that helps a lot. I'm going to do a couple of more things. I'm going to make a video about how to get to Bacolod, how to get in touch with GT or his family to set up training, where to stay, the best ways to travel, some little things that have helped me out over the years to sort of make the most of the experience. I'm going to make a whole separate video about that. I'm also going to make a video along with Neha, Shweta and Zarir, the other people who came with me, talking about our experiences training with GT. And again, I'm going to link a playlist at the end of this video, the playlist to the days of training with GT that we had. Not all of the days are there. The last couple of days we didn't capture for a few reasons. The aim and the hope is to send people or get people to go to Bacolod to train with him, because you may not be able to train with him much longer. And even though it is different to training in your school or in your dojo or in a seminar, if you are a lover of FMA, if you're a lover of Pekiti Tirsia Kali, it is still an experience that I would highly recommend for anyone to have at least once. Because again, last time I'm going to say this, he is different from when he's teaching a seminar. You get to talk to him, you get to experience him in a different way than you would if you just spent 2 hours, 4 hours a day with him once a year. So I would highly recommend this. My email address is also going to be in the link as usual. If anybody wants help reaching out to him, or anybody wants help in going to him, or any questions about it, please feel free to email me any questions you may have. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you GT for everything that you've done. Thank you to Neha and Shweta and Zarir for trusting me, trusting GT, accompanying me on this trip. It was the first time that I took people with me to the Philippines. Thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for your support, and see you guys in the next video.